Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. We're so excited. This is our first meetup and we've never done this before, so we have no idea how many people to expect and we're so excited you're here. So my name is Caroline Benson, this is Troy Norcross, and together we are Blockchain Rookies. We started Blockchain Rookies because it's just such an exciting time in technology, and I feel like if you went back and looked at 20 years ago and said, I wonder how the internet will be used for business, that's kind of where we are now. So I'm going to pass over to Troy, who's going to talk through blockchain in terms of business.
So good evening. As Caroline said, my name is Troy Norcross and I'm one of the co-founders of Blockchain Rookies. I want to give a bit of background on how this whole thing really started. I was at a dinner party, and at this dinner party there were probably 15 different people, and they all started talking about Bitcoin and they talked about blockchain and this and that and something else, and I was the only guy in the room that knew anything about this, because at that point in time I was CEO and she was COO of a small blockchain company called Open Goods. And so we all kind of piled into a WhatsApp group and we said, well, what should we call this WhatsApp group? We said, well, we're all kind of learning as we're going along. We're all kind of rookies, so we're going to call it Blockchain Rookies. And that's how the name Blockchain Rookies kind of came to be. And we decided to turn that into a website, and that's how blockchainrookies.com came to be. And it's filled with lots of content trying to make blockchain easy to understand and accessible to people in the enterprise space. We think that in the small, medium-sized enterprise space especially, there's a huge need that's not being fulfilled. In the high-end enterprise, you've got the Deloittes and the PricewaterhouseCoopers, you've got all the big guys that are telling everybody about what blockchain is and taking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds in fees. But who's helping the medium-sized enterprise? Who's helping the small enterprise? And that's really where we want to focus. Tonight is our first meetup, and we're trying to make sure that when we do these meetups, we're delivering real value. And from an enterprise concept, what we want to deliver tonight are the 10 questions that, as an enterprise, you should ask and should be able to answer before you commence, or even if you're in the middle of a blockchain deployment. And I've put these together because over the time that I started this project, back in May when I was CEO of the company, all the way through probably 40 different ICOs that I've seen or been part of, and then doing consulting with a whole number of different kind of blockchain or crypto-based startups, I now kind of understand much more where these things are really kind of rubber hitting the road. We've also done presentations at HSBC to their private wealth managers. We've done a full day training class on blockchain to Barclays, to their compliance teams, and to their financial fraud teams, trying to help them understand where are the commercial risks in doing things around blockchain. So we've got a variety of experiences that we can pull together that are the basis for the 10 questions. So without much further ado, I want to thank the fine folks here at the Innovation Warehouse. So we're based here at the Innovation Warehouse. It's a really, really great place. I've been here for more than 3 years. They've got an excellent community, and if you're looking for a place to come for co-working, if you're looking for a place as a startup where they have more than just desks, where they have mentoring, where they have advisory, where they have actually services that you can use, like legal and accountancy, this is a really great place. So the first question you've got to start with is, where is the value in the blockchain project that you're going to be doing? I do a whole presentation called The Language of Value. And when you're communicating value, it's not about features, it's not about functions. The value has to be defined in one or more of the following 5 things. How do you make money, save time, add joy, or remove pain? Because unless you're communicating one or more of those things, there's really not any value. The how you deliver it, whether it's blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, that doesn't matter until you define what the value is. Once you define the value, then you can figure out how you're going to deliver that. So the second one, who's being connected? So we talk about the fact that blockchain allows for a decentralized ledger, or DLT, decentralized ledger technology. And you talk about many parties having copies of that ledger. So who are the people that are being connected? In the case of Bitcoin, it's consumers. So I don't know you, you don't know me, we're going to do a transaction and we're going to do it without a bank in the middle, without a centralized party in the middle. And those consumers are being connected. So who is being connected when you're deciding within your own blockchain project so you know who are the parties. Another example is everyone along the supply chain, end to end. From the growers who grow the cotton in the field, to the manufacturers that turn it into bolts of fabric, to the shippers that put it in a container and bring it across the sea, to the truck that delivers it to Topshop. Every one of those people will have a role to play and participate in that blockchain. They don't know one another, there are commercial arrangements between each other, and many times they are untrusting of one another because they're always trying to find where's the margin, where's the opportunity, and there's always a little bit of untrust just because there's tension and friction in the commercial arrangements. And who's being replaced? So Bitcoin thinks we're replacing the banks. Who knows what was the date that blockchain was launched? 3rd of January 2009. In the initial hash of the initial block of Bitcoin, it says, it's the 3rd of January, the cover of the Times says, banks think we're on the verge of a second bailout. And Satoshi Nakamoto, who came up with the concept of Bitcoin, felt that we had lost trust in the centralized party and we needed a decentralized financial system. So he's thinking we're going to replace the banks, replace these centralized trusted third parties. So when you're looking at doing a blockchain, who's being replaced? Who is it that's no longer going to be necessary because the blockchain allows for trust to happen through transparency? I've been saying that for years and years, that I help companies build trust through transparency. And back then it was all about opt-in permission for consumer data, for SMS marketing. In 2004, it's what brought me from the US to the UK, was launching a company, helping people build trust through transparency. So blockchain is very, very near and dear to my heart in that aspect. But who are you going to replace? And then we talk about transparency again. Who's going to benefit from the transparency and who's going to lose out? You know, we were talking about a supply chain. So I've got a bale of cotton. I'm going to put the bale of cotton onto the supply chain, onto the blockchain. In return, I'm going to get some crypto. I'm now going to take that bale of cotton and I'm going to make it into various pieces. I may tokenize my bale of cotton. And then I see where do those tokens get spent? Well, 47% of it goes into the next manufacturer and gets made into bolts of fabric. 3% of it gets lost. It's one of those things where, you know, the machines kind of eat it, there are errors, there are mistakes, and it winds up on the floor. And then we go to the next stage, and whoa, wait a minute, 47, where's the other 50%? And without the blockchain, you didn't even know that 50% of the bale of cotton went missing. But now you can see that it went missing. The transparency in that particular case is really good for the people who are buying. But the people who are selling, well, maybe they wanted to sell it to a friend on the down low. Maybe they wanted to destroy it for some other reason. Maybe they wanted to get rid of it because it really wasn't 100% organic after all. And they wanted to kind of hide it all. So in some cases, transparency is good. In some cases, transparency is bad. So you have to look at how the whole blockchain is going to work and look at who are the stakeholders, where does transparency add value, and where does it take value away. So how will all the participants in your blockchain agree to a data and to a schema? Now, when I say a data schema, what I mean is the fields that you would normally find in a database and what the contents of each field mean. Now, I'm American, I spell color C-O-L-O-R. In Europe, it's C-O-L-O-U-R. So now I've got two different field names. Now, when I say red, I mean red, like fire engine red. When you say red, you mean candy apple red. So now I've got two different reds. So what does red mean? What does color mean? I need to normalize all of that. So when I add information and read information from the supply chain, that's a blockchain, we're all talking the same language. But my question to a lot of people is, wait a minute, if you normalize the schema, do you still need a blockchain? Because you've done all the hard work. Do you still need the blockchain? Where is the blockchain value once you've actually done the hard work to agree as an industry, this is the schema we're going to work to? And what data is going to be stored on the chain and what's going to be stored what they call off-chain. I made this analogy the other day that if you think about the blockchain as nothing more than an Excel sheet, it really lends itself very well because you think about, what would I and what would I not put into an Excel sheet? Well, I'm not going to put the entire series of Game of Thrones into an Excel sheet. Even though I probably could copy it into an Excel sheet, it just doesn't belong there. It's way too big, it's way too unruly. Nor would I put 100 million transactions into an Excel sheet. It's really not designed for that. So I might put the Game of Thrones off-chain and make a pointer or a reference to it and put that on the blockchain. I might even put a bunch of licenses that authorize people to watch the Game of Thrones, but I wouldn't put the whole thing onto the chain. So again, it's looking at where is blockchain really well suited to store data and what is it not suited to do. If it's not suited to do it and you put it off-chain, how are you going to connect it? How are you going to protect it? There's lots of questions about how you're going to manage and maneuver all of that data. So how are you going to manage the development of the software? In the Ethereum blockchain, we talk about smart contracts, which is really nothing more than code. Using the same Excel example, I talk about the fact that Excel has macros, and the Ethereum blockchain has smart contracts. They're small pieces of code that do roughly the same kind of basic functionality. But in the case of Bitcoin, there's a community of people that write the Bitcoin core. And all of the miners who are mining Bitcoin have to agree every time you do a release. For Ethereum, there's the Ethereum Foundation. And they're the ones that decide all of the future features that are going to come along with Ethereum and the code releases. But they're working as a foundation. If you, as an enterprise, are going to build a blockchain, and you say, well, we'll write all the software, and we'll manage all the software, and we'll control all of the database, well, that is centralized, centralized, and centralized. And that's not what blockchain is about. Blockchain is about decentralized. So then how are you going to get people to do this? A great example is UPS. UPS has joined the Blockchain Industry Trucking Alliance, BITA. And so they're not trying to write their own blockchain. They're trying to actually work within an industry trade group, and they will write as a group and maintain as a group all of the software platform for that particular blockchain that will allow them to see the position of trucks, the contents of trucks, and the loads of trucks across the USA and improve efficiency by adding visibility into all of that chain of transport and logistics. But again, UPS is not trying to control it all, they're trying to participate. So as an enterprise, you have to decide, am I trying to control it all? Because frankly, if you're trying to control it all, you may as well have a database. It's much less work and much more flexible to just do a database than to do a blockchain project. Governance. How will decisions be made regarding the blockchain? So now I'm not talking about the software development, I'm talking about the rules of the road. Bitcoin, maximum number of tokens that will ever be in Bitcoin is 21 million. And what year are we going to get it? 2140. So we will mine the last Bitcoin in 2140. Ethereum, they had a problem where somebody wrote a bad piece of Ethereum smart contract code, and one company, Parity, lost $300 million worth of Ethereum. Lost it. Locked up in the blockchain forever. But the community came together, and in a governing way, they decided to make a hard fork, put the Ether back, and carry it on. But that was a governance decision. So you need to figure out not only who's going to write the code, but who's going to do the governance of the community, the governance of the blockchain. And again, if you're going to be governance, and you're going to be enterprise, and you're not going to let anybody else play, you may as well do a database. And there we go. Why can't you just use a database? So when you're doing an enterprise project, and you're really looking around, you have to ask yourself, what is it in blockchain that I'm getting that I couldn't just get in a database? Why am I doing that? And the number one reason people have blockchain is we're connecting untrusted parties. So if you have a whole bunch of people that are untrusted and you want them all to work together on a level footing, then that's why you would use a blockchain. Some people will say, well, what we're really doing with a blockchain, and this is an interesting kind of concept, I've got my database, and I've got my firewall, so I'm totally protected, but I've got all these suppliers out there that I want to keep better monitoring on. So I'm going to create a blockchain on the other side of my firewall, and I'll have all of them report in to me. But still, I'm going to be the one kind of in charge. And I think about it as a balloon kind of poking out through a hole and blowing up on the outside, but it's really still part of the same enterprise. And that comes down to, well, as a supplier, why would I play on your blockchain? Is it going to save me money? Are you going to give me better payment terms? Why am I going to do that? And otherwise, may as well just use a database and give all my suppliers a login. It's still secure. And the last one, will you have a coin or a utility token, and why? And do you really want to do an ICO? There's so many stories about people raising hundreds of millions or at least tens of millions on initial coin offerings or TGE, token generation events. And everybody's kind of clamoring for this easy money. Okay, folks, easy money, it's not. It's a lot of hard work. From the PR to the regulatory and the legal compliance and everything else that you've got to do. And then there's this magic word. It was really the word that blew up our company, tokenomics. The tokenomics didn't work. We were using a token for all of our transactions on our platform, and our customers wanted a stable price so they knew what they would pay for transactions. But that was the token we were doing an ICO with that the speculators wanted to see 10x, and they wanted to see it in a year. Well, if they did that, then our customers would lose out. So I know, we'll normalize the price of the token for our customers and base it on fiat currency. Currencies backed by governments like pounds or dollars. But what we did we eliminated all the demand. And suddenly there wasn't any demand to cause the price to go up. So the speculators weren't happy. And it's like, well, okay, we can have customers happy, or we can have speculators happy. But in any case, the tokenomics didn't work. Utility token is one example that I also talk about with people. If you've been to America and you've been to a laundromat, in a laundromat there's a little box in the wall and you put in dollar bills and it spits out coins, little tokens. And those tokens can only be used in the washers and dryers in that specific laundromat. That's the only place that they can be used. And when we talk about a TGE or an ICO, what we're really talking about is people buying these tokens before the laundromat has been built and under the assumption that people are going to want to wash clothes. It could be that people are building a laundromat that only washes white trainers, and that may sound like a really, really good idea, but there may be very little market demand for it. And it could be that the people who are going to build laundromats have never built anything in their life and don't have any idea how to build a laundromat and can't even plug their own washing machine in. ICOs and TGEs, when we're talking about them, are buying tokens sometimes before the platform has been built and sometimes before the demand has already been created. And frankly, if you've got a business that has been a platform and has customers in demand, you can raise money in the traditional capital markets through venture capital, seed funding, angels, or others at far less cost than you can for an ICO. Okay, I have one last slide. This is the pub quiz slide. So when I asked this the other day, I started off with how many people in the room can identify all four? How many can identify three? Two people. How many can you identify two? Okay, and most of you can identify at least one. Okay, so who's this? Satoshi Nakamoto, he's drawn as a cartoon. That's a cover off of Time magazine. He's drawn as a cartoon because we don't know who or whom Satoshi Nakamoto is or was. Was it a single person? Was it many people? We don't know. And then people that have claimed or have been accused of being Satoshi Nakamoto, and still nobody knows. Who's this? 22nd of May, 2010. Second clue. Guy in the middle. That's Laszlo. 22nd of May, 2010. $40, 2 pizzas, 10,000 Bitcoin. 10,000 Bitcoin. A single Bitcoin today is worth $8,900. So for $890,000, he got 2 pizzas. So that's Laszlo on Bitcoin Pizza Day, 22 May. Who's this? Buterin. And why is he relevant? Ethereum. Who's this? Jamie Dimon, the man who loves to piss all over Bitcoin, but says, but blockchain's okay, while his daughter buys Bitcoin on the side. And that is bringing us back to this. We are set up here to help educate enterprise customers. We want to demystify what is blockchain and help you really look at business value and decide where it does and where it does not make sense for enterprises to engage in blockchain either internally or in consortia or in cooperation with others. We want to help you see and demystify what should go into a blockchain and what should not go into a blockchain. It's why we're here.